Welcome to the Three Archers podcast. Our archers are here. It is Sagittarius season, and this episode we are talking about ultra dependence. Ultra dependence.
Dependence.
Ultra independence.
Ultra independence. Yes,
Yeah.
ultra independence.
Right.
Ultra independence. That persona of the strong Black woman, or strong woman in general, but specifically the strong Black woman, right? And so, Letitia, what do you think about that? Just the word. What does it say to you?
Ultra independence
Yes.
says trauma to me. I know that's like probably not what people first think of, but it absolutely says trauma. Society has conditioned us to believe that ultra independence is a badge that we should wear, instead of looking at it as what it really is. It is a direct response to trauma, whether someone has not been present, usually father figures, parents, a sign of abuse. There are many things that trigger ultra independence, but the bigger of them is usually abandonment issues.
So what that says to me when you talk about abandonment issues, that really signals to me the word trust, right?
Absolutely.
The fact that you can't trust. So Stephanie, what do you think about our ability, or some of us that may suffer with ultra independence, our inability to trust?
Yeah, I mean, those two things, they go hand in hand, honestly. A part of being ultra independent is not trusting anybody to do anything for you. That's basically what that is. Yeah, that's just what it is. And of course, not trusting people comes from usually something happening to make you feel that way. You know what I'm saying? You don't just come into the world not trusting people. Usually there is an experience or experiences that make you, that way. So yeah, I think ultra independence, don't kill me, y'all, but ultra independence reeks misery.
Oh,
I'm not gonna
Uh,
persecute you
so
on
let's
that one at
follow
all.
that. Let's talk about that.
I'm not gonna persecute you on that at all.
A lot of ultra independent women that I know are miserable in real life.
And alone, right? Absolutely.
So I'll tell you what struck me when you were, sharing what you think about that, is you said we don't come in the world like that. So it's so true. Like as a child, you're almost too trusting. Like we have to go, stranger danger and stuff like that. And we have to teach children that everybody's not your friend, everybody's not to be trusted, everybody's not going to support you. And that's a hard lesson to learn, but it's a necessary one. So where does it go? Where does it swing too far? Like, how do we get to not just you can't trust everybody, but I feel like now I can't trust anybody.
It be men. I'm gonna just keep it a stack. Look, it be these dudes. It be these. Oh, wait a minute.
We had some technical difficulties.
Hold on.
We had some technical difficulties. We're back.
The number one clumsy person in the world, and y'all have me. Okay, so yeah, it's just it comes from guys, and of course, like bad relationships, cheating, and all types of stuff, abuse and stuff like that. And then it comes from, like Letitia said, like parenting, bad parenting, all types of abuse as children, childhood trauma like molestation and physical abuse and, you know, abandonment, like Letitia said, you know, people just leaving, daddy issues, daddy's not being around, popping in and out, all of that stuff conditions you to put up like this wall. And then you say, you know, I don't trust anybody.
Wow. So when you
You
said
know,
men, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and I don't remember who it was, but I remember one day seeing on my timeline, somebody had posted that I'm raising a son. I'm raising him to be a man that you can be safe with. And then, so when I saw it, I was like, wow, first of all, that hit different. And then secondly, when we talk about safety, a lot of times we think we automatically go to the physical. And yes, we want to be physically safe. Nobody wants to be beat or anything like that, but emotionally safe, like mentally safe. Are my thoughts and feelings and goals and spirit, my energy, are those things safe with you?
right.
So that really, I feel like that kind of ties into this when you say, you know, that it happens with our encounters with men, basically.
Yep.
But also females. Letitia, what do you think about the role that women play in this for other women?
Wow. To be honest, as women, we're abusive.
Oh.
We have been conditioned to be abusive, not only to other women, but to men as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have, like, the trademark of Black women has been the sharp tongue. And we all know your mother could say something to like cut you like down. And if it wasn't your mother, it was your grandmother. Somebody had a slick, sharp tongue and could like break you all the way down. Never had to put their hands on you. And we don't talk enough about emotional and mental abuse, because those are the things that really leave the scars. You know, physical abuse is traumatic, but the wounds heal from that. You can carry those emotional and those mental scars for you for a lifetime. And if they're not properly addressed, you will always carry them. They will always sit in the back of your head, and then you're competing with yourself because you're never good enough based upon something that was what's the word I'm looking for? Not implanted. Something that was put in you early in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I know we were talking about ultra independence in women.
We still are. We still are.
But I look, because you know I always go off the beaten path a little bit. You have to also consider what ultra independence looks like in men, because that creates the big gap between men and women. Because ultra independence in men creates that emotional barrier, that thing that does not allow them to let us see them vulnerable in the safe place that should be with their women. So in response to that, we're getting the short end of the stick, and it creates a divide. So it breaks down families, because the man and the woman can never get on the same page, because they're fighting the same demon very differently.
Wow.
Bingo.
Right.
Wow. All right. So I'm like,
Sister Letitia.
mind blown, right? Wow. So on both sides of the spectrum, I think, you know, there's something to be said for being independent, right? There's nothing wrong with being independent.
Not at all.
But there is something wrong with ultra independence, which is what we're talking about. So I heard what you said about men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they don't recognize that in themselves. So what I want to kind of like touch on is, how can you tell the difference? How do you tell for yourself? Like self-assessment. I crossed the line, whether you're a male or female. I've crossed the line from just being strong and capable into a trauma response.
Oh, I know.
Ooh, let me know, sister. Let me know.
When you are miserable, like I said, like it's nothing negative about being independent. There's nothing negative about that. When you go overboard with it into ultra independence, that's where you get negativity from it. Once you see negative things coming from it, then that should tell you right there, you're doing too much. And I think, I truly, truly think that it's not per se like, I'm gonna just touch on women because I'm not a man, so whatever. But the world has kind of tried to train us to think that we don't need anybody, and that especially don't need a man. Not true. Here's the thing. I can do things on my own. I can pay my own bills. I can, I can do all of that. I can live on my own. But I need my man. Not like I need him to survive. Not like I need him, to breathe. I know how to do all that stuff on my own, but he makes things better. You know what I'm saying? But you can't feel that way about somebody if you have this notion in your head that you're weak because you say you need somebody. That's what it is. It's like, if you like, this world makes women think that you're weak if you like having somebody. Not that you feel like you gotta have somebody, but if you're in a relationship or marriage and you're happy, you know what I'm saying, and that person completes your circle, people make you feel like, it's something wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like a lot of women do that because you can't like something that you never had.
Wait a minute. We not gonna roll past that fast.
You can't.
Nah, you gotta slow that one down.
You can't
slow it down.
You cannot like something that you never had. You cannot be down with something that you never experienced. I have had people, like, I have gotten so much backlash from women because, I don't down talk my man, okay? He make things happen. I don't have to worry about a thing when it comes to him. He's a man's man, period. I have went through my ultra independent stage. I've been there. I've been delivered. Even after I gave up that, I gave that up prematurely and was in a situation where I should have still held on to that a little bit harder because the person just wasn't it. You know what I'm saying? They weren't capable of shouldering the load that a man really should be able to. But I gotta leave that there. Every man is not that man. So I'm in a situation where I recognize things are good. He does what he's supposed to do, and he makes my life easier. I don't have to be ultra independent. I don't have to be like, oh no, I don't need you to do that. Oh no, yes. Yeah, when he be like, what, babe, what can I do to help? You can do XYZ. It was a point in time where I'd be like, no, I don't need no help. Be stressed, depressed, miserable, need this, need that, but you be so, caught up on trying to make it seem like you don't need somebody. And back to what I was saying, like, it's because the world makes us feel like if we are not these ultra independent women that we are gold diggers. If we don't, if we want a man who has his stuff together, if we want a man who is a provider, then we are gold diggers. Well, listen, world, let me tell you something. First of all, he got to have gold to dig. A lot of these men out here be calling people gold diggers, and they ain't got not one daggone gold coin or nugget. So they shouldn't even be talking about gold digging. They need to be
I died and nobody was going to check on me.
I was coming to check on you, sister, but I felt like she was going to continue.
My life stopped and nobody said anything.
I know all of y'all done heard this all the time. I be sold the first time. Put up a post. Hit the experiment on your free time. Put up a post saying, that you feel like men should be paying bills. Men shouldn't be requiring you to go 50-50. Men are supposed to provide a home for their woman. They're supposed to provide a comfortable life for their woman. Put that up there and see how many men come beating that post down, calling you a gold digger, talking about, well, what you supposed to do with your time, what you supposed to do with your money. You must be lazy. You must be this. You must be that. I've done it. I've because that's how, that's my motto. Listen, if you're my man, you're going to provide for me. You're going to provide for our children, and I'm going to make your life easier just like you're going to make my life easier. But, the first thing somebody will say is, oh, well, you lazy. You must be sitting home all day not doing nothing, not knowing that I got 6 businesses that I run and I have money. But that don't mean I want to pay house bills with it. My dude do that, and he do it with a smile because he was doing it before I got there. You get what I'm saying? This world makes us feel like it's something wrong with that, though. When it was a time that's how it was.
So one thing I heard you say, right? I be thinking while you be talking, I be thinking. My mind works. Mm-hmm. So what I heard you say is that you need your man, right? And then I was like, because I was already thinking about how somebody who doesn't understand that concept is going to react to that. Mm-hmm. Like, you need him, but you were very clear that you don't need him for like the basic stuff. You're a complete person all by yourself. But you need him because everybody really needs somebody in their corner, and it really should be your mate, right?
Absolutely.
It should be your mate. Everybody needs somebody in that corner that's going to be a support for them, a comfort for them. You do need them. You shouldn't need them for your basic life, because if you are not a complete person on your own, you're not ready to be in a couple anyway.
Absolutely.
And we don't take enough time to address that. Like you said, you have to have like, you just can't meet. Yeah, we haven't spoke on it, but I'm a Christian, and a lot of times how I relate things are to what my Bible tells me. You can't be unequally yoked. Yeah. And if you're a woman, you're sitting here, you got 6 businesses, you take care of yourself, you're an excellent mother. You know what I mean? As far as your time, like, goals, right? Mm-hmm. How could you be with someone who's not at that place? Then that's where you're either too independent, or for some people in a different circumstance, they fall into sometimes codependency. So I wasn't complete, so I need you to complete a part of my basic structure, my basic who I am. So now you're codependent because you were too afraid to swing the other way, right?
Yeah.
So we do need, and how you know that it's appropriate is when you need a person, but the person you're with, you're not with because you need, you're with because you want.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because that's always my saying. I don't need you, but I want you. And that's a definitive difference. And that's the curse of being independent women, is people not understanding the difference between independence and ultra-independence. Because as I've come out of my marriage, as I've recollected myself, got to know myself again, started chasing after my dreams and aspirations, I now hear inferior men say, you look like you don't need a man. So you're threatened by the fact that I can do. So that already tells me that you're an omega. You're not an alpha. And every woman on this panel, in this Sage life, these archers, we want alpha men. We want men that lead. We want men that lead. So if your issue, so if you're coming here and you're saying to me, you look like you don't need a man for anything, you're threatened and you're an omega, I will eat you up and spit you out.
Period.
And then, sister, let me say this: not just the Sagittarius woman, but there's something lacking in you just as a man if you don't have an understanding that everyone needs, like, there's no such thing as you don't need a man for anything. We all need each other. Y'all know me, but for those of you watching, you know, I am extremely introverted.
Right.
I don't crave companionship. It's not a thing. But I do still need connection, right? Even in that even in me preferring my solo space, even in the struggle of cohabitating. Like, I tell my kid, I love him. But I tell him I want to live by myself because that's my happy place. I want to live by myself. But I love you, child. I love you, man, enough to share my space, which to me is sacred. My space is sacred because there are two places where you should be guaranteed peace. And I feel like that's your home. And, you know, when you transition on, you should transition on to a place of peace if you lived right. And then your home, because there's so many things outside of those places that we can't control. Look at where we are now, you know, COVID and, you know, this election that was just a big thing, you know, but it was something we had no control over. We just had to sit back and watch and wait. And so your space as far as your home environment, your space as far as your internal space should be sacred. You have to take care of you. So that does require a certain level of independence. But that ultra independence, like you said, like we've all said, it's a learned behavior and it starts early. So we are all mothers. I'm the only one with no boy children, but we're all mothers. And we're here talking about women and ultra independence, but specifically in women because we're women. How do we stop that cycle for our own daughters? Like, what do you feel like is the main thing that is missing in these young women or young ladies or even little girls that prevents them from tipping the scale?
We're not raising our daughters to be ladies anymore. I think you have to start there because all of us were raised with women who understood what it meant to be ladies and they instilled that in us. So this generation behind us has no concept of being ladylike. And all of us know when we're in the presence of men, they see it. They're going to, wait, let me get the door. Wait, let me grab that for you. Don't pick that up. Because when you're in the presence of men, they recognize ladies and they adjust accordingly. The problem is these babies aren't trained to be those ladies and they're not training these young men to be men because it's a learned behavior. It's an exchange of power. And that ultra independence strips, because that's the issue with men and women. The ultra independent woman doesn't need anything from him. So since nothing is required, nothing is given.
Yep.
And then you sitting up here and you saying, see, he was no good, he was a bum, and then he gets with somebody else. And all of these things happen. All of a sudden, he's that guy. No, he was that guy. You emasculated him. And then you have these homegirls in your ear that don't know any better. Squawking squawking,
Yep.
talking you over a cliff that you had no business being on in the first place had you just sat your butt down.
So what I heard you say that I thought was real good, you said it's an exchange of power.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to exchange power, we have to both have it,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And then we have to both trust each other enough to have that exchange. You know, you don't give things to people you don't trust to take care of them or give them back to you, right? You're never supposed to loan what you can't afford to do without, but at the same time, you are trusting that person to, you know what I mean, take care of what you've given them. Doesn't matter what it is, but whatever I gave you, take care of that. And I was taught to treat other people's stuff better than I treat my own. For real. I mean, that's really the thought that I was given. So when you talk about that exchange of power, what is it that makes us feel uncomfortable about that exchange? And I know we talked about the trust, we talked about that, but why are we so afraid to lose our power forever? Like, why do we feel we got to hold on to that? God, sister, what do you think causes us to just want to hold on to it so tight that we can't even share it?
Because we just don't want to feel weak. We don't want to feel vulnerable. That's the big thing. You don't want to feel vulnerable. Because we all know when you get to a vulnerable place, you open.
Mm-hmm.
You all the way open. And being vulnerable in the wrong hands can be disastrous. And we talked about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. I was completely open. I was completely vulnerable. And I handed my vulnerability into the hands of a narcissist. And it blew up in my face. So I feel like that's why, you know, because you feel like, oh goodness, I'm naked, basically. I put it all out there. So what is this person going to do with it? But I mean, that's the chance you take. If I haven't learned anything in my life, it's just go for it. You know what I'm saying? And go with your gut. In that situation where, you know, I was completely taken advantage of, there were signs. There were definitely signs. My intuition, that woman's intuition that every woman has, it spoke to me often. I just ignored it because I was letting my brain talk to me more than my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, my brain was like, you know, this is different. This is what you need. This is what you need. This way you're supposed to be. But my heart was like, something ain't right. You need to. So I was trying to be logical, but it kind of that messed me up. So back to what I was saying, like you when it's time to be that way, you know. And when it's time not to be that way, you know. It's just that we be wanting what we want what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments, we want what we want. So when it blow up in our face, we like, see, that's what I'm talking about. I gave too much. I did too much. I did this. No, you didn't. If that's who you are, that's who you are. You just gave it to the wrong person.
So how do we recognize the right person? How do we recognize the person that is the perfect balance for our level of independence? The independence that we're supposed to maintain even when we're together. That level of independence. How do we recognize that person who not only meets us at that level, but could potentially heal some of the trauma that our ultra independence is fed by?
You can be emotionally free. That's what I would say. Above all else. That person, you got to be able to bear it all and still feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to tell them your deepest, darkest secrets. And a month later, when y'all get in an argument, that deep, dark secret ain't going to come out and bite you in the butt for sharing it. You know what I'm saying? They not going to use things that you told them about yourself against you to try to harm you. If they do mention those things, it's going to be to try to help you. It's not going to be used in a, you know, in an abusive way. If, you know, if that makes sense. I really think, I think you know that person is the right person when you can feel safe with them, with your emotions.
And that person pours into you. There are so often times that we're pouring into people, especially as mothers. The nurturer in us, you know, we're pouring and pouring and pouring, and then we're depleted. And then we go into our reserve, and then we deplete that. But when we find that person that comes in and pours into us, you know, and then we also have to be cautious about this, ladies. Understand that you can talk too much. Understand that you can tell a narcissist exactly what to do to appear to be the perfect guy.
Guilty.
But a lot of us do it all the time, and we don't know that we're doing it. We just think he's a good listener. Yes, he's a good listener because he has to know how to pull at your heartstrings. He has to know how to manipulate you. He has to know how to use your insecurities against you. But I want to backtrack because we forgot one thing in this ultra-independence trauma thing. How do we get there? Generational curses. A lot of these trauma responses are passed down before we even have our first experience. For a lot of women, it's passed down. Think about all of the generations of women. You see the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter in the same house, and all of them are single. All of them have multiple baby daddies or bad experiences with men. And typically the trauma, that ultra independence, those trauma responses are passed on generational.
True. That's good.
So I say, even going back earlier, we're saying about teaching our young ladies to be ladies, and the fact that, you know, we all come from strong women. Like we have a deep, for those of you listening or watching, we have a deep personal relationship. I know your mother, Letitia. Our mothers are interchangeable at this point. Like, that's your mama, that's my mama. Some days I'd be like, get your mother. And for you, Stephanie, God sister, like, your mother was a second mother to me, is a second mother to me. Even during some of those very, very important formative things, she was the one who was there, you know, when my mother could not be. And so we have a very close relationship. And the common thread among these women, and I could even go into our grandmothers, because I often tell people when I see young ladies or sometimes grown women who are exhibiting these things, I'll always say, they don't have no grandmas. So even into the next generation up, you know, they don't have no grandmas. You know, my grandmother, you know, to me, grandmothers are the one that teach you. Your mother, you know, they raise you, right? But your grandma's the one that tells you all the, like, the tips and the tricks of being a woman, of being ladylike. Like that's where you get your dignity. I tell people all the time, my father's mother, to this day, will not come off her porch in athleisure. She could be fully put together, matching her little sneakers that match, and she's not going anywhere looking like that. And he'd be like, but you got, she doesn't leave her house without a girdle. And I'm sorry, I'm telling all her business, but she's just very dignified. And so when I see young ladies, especially when I see, you know, they don't have shapewear and things like that, and it's not a size thing. But if they don't have shapewear and things like, I'm like, oh, they don't have no grandma, because grandmas are the one that teach you things like that, in my experience. So, you know, how do we, if you didn't have that example, which I thank God that we had it. But for those young ladies that don't have a grandma, that don't have a mother, somebody told me grandmothers are 30 years old now. Or like you said, it's a generational curse, and you can't give somebody what you don't have, and you can't model what you don't see. So for those who are suffering from ultra independence and other traumas, other traumatic behaviors, where do they go? How do they overcome?
Therapy.
In our case, we have a village, but that's a whole nother conversation.
That too.
The village.
That too.
The village is imperative, because I know for myself, Anika has been instrumental in my village. It takes more than a mother and a father to raise children.
Oh, and say people, it again. Say it again.
It takes way more than a mother and a father to raise children.
Yeah, be a lot
way more. It's not possible for just a man and a woman to raise children. It takes a village. Everybody who touches your child instills something different into your child.
And that's why you watch you around.
Absolutely. Because they are sponges. They soak things up. They pick it up on the way. You know, it's more contagious than a common cold. And people have to be mindful. Even as teenagers, because people are not mindful, but they're more impressionable as teens than as little people, because as little people, they see things black and white. As teenagers, they're introduced to the gray area, and that's when things become precarious. So we have to be more watchful.
Sure. Yep, and that's coming from somebody with a 16-year-old.
We all
right. We both have.
We all
have 16-year-olds.
You know,
all of us have to. And see, y'all have 16-year-old girls. I have a 16-year-old boy who thankfully was born a 40-year-old man.
Don't talk about my nephew like that.
Listen. But my 14-year-old, that's a whole different situation. Jesus. Please help me.
Yeah.
But you know why? Because I'm going to interject this. And this is a whole nother conversation. I feel like there's so much. This is so meaty, right?
It is.
It's because he's a second child. And I truly, firmly believe this. Second children, that first child, they come out and they good. They sleep through the night. They don't give you no trouble. You like, look at me, adulting. I got this parenting thing on lock. Like, they are easy breezy. And nobody tells you that second child
is going to get on your goddamn.
It's a whole different vibe. It's a whole.
They don't give no F's. They don't give no F's.
I feel like it's wrong because these same people have more than one child. Like in my family, my mother's mother has 5 children. My father's mother has 6 children. You knew about the second child.
Nobody
told me. Said nothing.
No, nobody want me.
Ain't nobody say nothing. Like how you just let me walk into that. Not that I wouldn't have. Like, listen, second children also bring a whole different type of light and love into you.
They do.
Like they are so. I feel like they're so creative, and they just bring like a whole different.
They the live wire.
Yes, and I love it. I'm here for every second of it. But like, you didn't tell me that they was different, and so I didn't know to expect it. I'm thinking I'm getting another one of that one. That's the model that I ordered.
Yep.
Because at least once a week, I'm like, I need a new one. This one's defective. And it's so funny because my mother said, I hope you get a daughter just like you. I did, and that's not the problem. She's not the problem. I'm so amused by her. But that second child is me with testosterone. I'm still unbothered, but the world is very bothered by my child. The world is very bothered. And
the world is very bothered.
We're going to address some of that when we attack colorism, because I have hilarious stories about colorism in this child.
Oh, baby.
Listen, I'm unbothered. His father, though, he gonna stroke out fooling with that boy. He is gonna have a whole stroke fooling with that boy.
Oh no.
So with you guys, so here again, I don't have any boys, right? I have no boys. I have 2 girls. Do you feel like you see, and I feel like this question might not even be fair, or might not even be fair to be asked to this particular group. But if anybody's listening, I'm interested, in hearing what you have to say about it. Because you have girls and boys, do you feel like you see any of that ultra independence leaking into your sons?
Me personally, no. And I'll tell you why. Because of what all of my children see on a daily basis. They are being raised in a household where they see a man and a woman that depend on each other. They see, oh gosh, why you start talking about?
Don't do my friend like that. Don't do my friend like that.
Because he out there crying. But like I said, every day they see us modeling behavior, like we need each other. I do for him, he does for me. It's not too much, too much on one end. And the respect is there. The respect is definitely there. What I will say about ultra independence, I meant to say this earlier, but a lot of times when I see it, it's disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
It's very disrespectful. A lot of Black women, I'm going to speak about that because I'm a Black woman and I'm surrounded by Black women. I see a lot of Black women who are ultra independent that feel like they have to be nasty and mean and condescending. And every 5 minutes, they got to remind the man of what they got, how they got it, how they don't need them, how they got more than them, how they can do without them, how they can get out, how, you know what I'm saying? It's like I said earlier, when it ain't right, when it just bring about negativity, when it's, negativity is attached to it. And that's what I be saying. So I bring that back around to what I was saying about, the things that my children see. They don't see me talking down to him. They don't see him talking down to me. We don't do that anyway. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just certain behaviors that they don't see. Now, in the past, my daughters, they have seen that, in other situations. So it's kind of like, I'm in the process of deprogramming, but it's more than just saying that's not the way things are supposed to be. That's not, it's not just talking, it's the action behind it. You know what I'm saying? I know I got a little bit of a mess to clean up. So I make sure I'm living in such a way that I would feel comfortable with them living. For a long time, I lived in such a way that I would cry if I knew my daughters were living that way, if I knew they were accepting the things that I accepted, if I knew that they had this wall up the way that I did, I wouldn't want that for them. So I got to a point where I said, you know what? I got to live the way I would want my daughters to live. And I got to a point where I thought, what would my mother think if she really, really knew everything that was going on? Because, me and my mother, we're very close. And I tell her everything. But there were points in my life where I could not tell her everything. And even if I didn't tell her everything, I know some things she kind of picked up on. And it made me wonder, like, Dad, how did it make her feel? How as a mother, how does that make my mother feel to know that she has a daughter out here that's suffering? You know what I'm saying? That's suffering physically, mentally, emotionally. So again, now I make sure that I live in such a way that I'm like, okay, if my daughters live this way, I'd be cool with that. I live in such a way, so I'm like, okay, I know my mother is, she can breathe now. That's the cure right there, y'all. Kids, they gonna do what they want to do, even though my childhood, I had some stuff happen and some things go on. But once my mother got a rein on things and, got into her married life with my stepdad, she showed me a whole different way of life. I had to take my lumps first. You know what I'm saying? I had to take my lumps first. But when you train up a child in the way that they should go, even when they stray a little bit, at some point they come back. So you got to just keep putting it in them. You got to keep pouring it in them. You got to keep showing them. You know what I'm saying? It's just what they say, like you can tell somebody, but it's different from them saying it. You can't tell your child not to smoke weed and they seeing you smoking weed every day. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, you got to lead by example. So I think that, the trauma responses, we gotta lead by example. We gotta heal ourselves. Healing has to take place. Ain't nothing gonna go away until you deal with it, until you recognize and like really say why you are the way that you are. It's going, if you don't do that, it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. You got to be like, okay, this ain't it. You got to stop here. Let's make some adjustments.
Make some adjustments.
Yep.
As needed.
Yep.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm doing a balancing act now that I'm not married. Throughout my marriage, my children got a very traditional dynamic. And thank God, my boys are teenagers. They grew up in such a way that they saw the man of the house. They saw how their father treated me. They saw the dynamic between the man and woman. And even though I'm divorced, we work to maintain a healthy friendship. So co-parenting is easier. That journey through divorce for them was easier because they saw us come back together and rebuild a friendship and be respectful, even though we didn't see things the same way. And one of my things in life is you have to fight fair. You know what I mean? You can fight because confrontation is healthy, but you have to do it fair. And you have to learn how to agree to disagree. So I'm concerned about my daughters because as I go through this dating phase, I'm intolerant. And I'm having a hard time cultivating relationships because the slightest thing make me go, I'm not doing it. But I want to make sure that I'm displaying the right things to them so that they're not, quick to bolt, so to speak. I think I'm dating someone now, and he seemed like he want to act right. We'll talk about that later. But
after the show. After
the show, right?
The show.
But they are seeing what courtship looks like because that's something they didn't really see because mommy was already married. So they see what courtship looks like. And we, like you said, Stephanie, you just always have to be mindful that you're displaying, that you're being the woman that you want your babies to emulate, that you're being the woman that you want your sons to marry. You have to make sure that that's what you're giving them because they will gravitate to that because it's inbred in them. So we gonna pray about it.
we definitely gonna pray.
We're gonna pray about it.
We're gonna pray. So I feel like in my own situation, at this point, I kind of have bits and pieces of where you both are, but not quite the same situation. And y'all are familiar with, you know, we have, like I said, we're sisters in real life. That's my sister. That's my god sister. We've been banging for a minute. So y'all know what it is. But I think the one thing that I take away from each one of the situations and circumstances, current, past, hopefully future, is self-assessment. Like the way that I make sure that I'm not continuing trauma behavior resulting from traumas, because we all have traumas and triggers and things that have happened in our life, is that continued self-assessment.
Yeah.
Looking at the situation and saying, hey, where could I have done better? Hey, if I continue down this path, if I continue to do this the same way, what are the repercussions of that? What could that result in? What does that look like, in 5 years? What does that plant? What seed does that plant in my daughters? What seed does that plant in me? Because I'm still growing, and I'm still being fed, and I'm still being, nurtured. Learning is a lifelong process. And that's not just for books. That's, we learn as we grow. And that's another thing that I think is inherent, or that comes from seeing the example, is that when you are a young lady, when you're starting out in life, your teens and 20s and things like that, you haven't lived enough life to understand some of what this is really about. Whether we're talking about specifically ultra-independence or, all of the things that we go through, you just haven't lived enough life. So your perspective is very limited, and it's limited to what is in your immediate circle. So hopefully you do have a village. Hopefully you are seeing behaviors modeled in your home. But even if you don't, there was a book I gave to my best friend a long time ago. It was like all these things I wish I knew when I was 18 or something or another. I probably had that wrong, but I skimmed the book before I got it, because I'm not just going to give you something I don't even know what it is. And one thing that stuck out to me, one of the chapters was the expiration date has passed on your childhood trauma. Now we know that that's not, you can't just say that. That has to be qualified. So what it really breaks down to is that we all have traumas and triggers, most of them happening in childhood or young adulthood, but you get to make the choice of what you're going to do about those traumas, those triggers, if you're going to work towards healing or if you're going to rest in that place of misery. And so you just, you can't go through your life saying, oh, well, I have to be, so independent. I have to be superwoman. I have to do all this because do you? Or are you holding on to an experience that has already passed and projecting that baggage onto something that is present or future? So just, always doing mirror checks. Like, hey, you got to get comfortable. Ooh, your clumsiness is contagious. So you just got to get comfortable looking at yourself in the mirror and being honest about who you are and what you see.
Yeah.
So that you can make the changes, the adjustments as needed. Because we all need adjustments. Like you have a car, it's going to need a tune-up. You have it long enough. It's going to need an oil change regularly. No machine, and we are, machines of a sort. No machine runs at optimum level without regular maintenance. And if you are thinking that you don't need maintenance, oh, I got this. I don't need nobody. I don't need anything. I don't need to adjust anything. There's a problem.
And you going to snap.
The root of that is, do you even see it? Do you even see it if you don't challenge yourself? Do you see it if you don't have a village or a circle? If you don't have a sage in your life who's going to tell you, hey,
get it together.
Get that right.
Get that together. What's up with you?
Mm-hmm.
So just that for this and so many other things. Just making sure that you have somebody who's really in your corner with no agenda, who is not afraid to correct, but who will still lead with love. Like, I love you, but this has to be addressed. And doing it in such a way that they're not trying to hurt you. They're really trying to help you. And being receptive to that, you know, because if you can't be criticized, you can't grow.
Right.
Yep.
Whether that's you criticizing you or somebody else criticizing you, you can't grow if you can't see where you fall short. So I am thankful, you know, really, I thank God that even though we may have passed through seasons of ultra independence, we don't live there. And for those who do live there, I'm praying for you to be delivered.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Get out of there, girl. Get out of there.
Get out of there.
Get
That
out
is
of there.
not where you are supposed to be.
Not at all.
Come
Not
on
at all.
over here where it's free. Come on over here, girl. Come on over here where it's free.
Right. Facts. Big facts. Even if you're not a Sag, you can come over to the Sag circle. You can, you know, a little bit.
That's a
little
That's
bit. So, thank you, ladies. I'm grateful for this time with y'all. It's always good conversation and thoughts and insights, and I'm excited that now we're sharing our what I think is a very special dynamic with others, and hopefully that they have some thoughts and insights that they get from this and that they'll share with us, right? Because I'm always interested in other people's perspectives. Always.
Absolutely.
It's definitely
we have to have more
something to grow.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if you continue this conversation in your circles, like maybe you got a Gemini circle or like a, you know, them other signs.
Them other signs. That was so saucy.
I got some friends who not Sagittarius. Couple.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about it. So we're gonna close out, and here again, thank you so much, ladies, for taking time. Time is the most priceless thing we have.
Yes.
And especially in this season we're in right now, still battling through the COVID journey as a society, right? We're all COVID free, thank God.
Thank you, Jesus.
Whew. Need to put a shout right there, like. But just understanding that time, you know, I saw something last week, and you know, we have a habit of saying tomorrow's not promised, but today is not promised. So I just want to say I'm grateful for the time that we have had together today. I'm grateful for anybody who had time to listen and share on our thoughts and our feelings and our perspectives. And I'm grateful for the time when we will meet again, God willing.
Yep.
All right. So don't forget, like, share, follow. Sagittarius season continues.
Bye.
Yeah.